Right, thanks, Jonny. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to our fourth UK-Israel Business virtual breakfast. Hope you've all had your real breakfast. Our last meeting had a big sports bias coming shortly after Leeds United's promotion to the Premier League, and of course, we're all waiting with excitement or trepidation for the opening fixture against Liverpool in a couple of days. In the meantime, those of you who may have watched it, Israel's national team put up a very creditable performance at Hampden Park last week against Scotland, and I think they've got another draw against Slovakia back in Israel. So today's esteemed panel, whom I'll introduce shortly, represent a different industry and the one that's been seriously affected by COVID-19, and that's the hospitality industry. And I'm sure we'll hear all about the challenges in that industry brought about by the crisis. But firstly, I'm delighted with the numbers who have joined us this morning. And apart from our members, we're pleased to note there are some attendees who are experiencing our UK-Israel business event for the first time. We hope you and other guests who are online will become members and help us to continue our work. So for the benefit of newcomers, and as a reminder, UK-Israel Business was founded in 1950 as the Anglo-Israel Chamber of Commerce. UK-Israel Business encourages and supports bilateral trade and investment between the UK and Israel. It was previously known as the British Israel Chamber of Commerce and has a network of over 2,000 companies and 10,000 business leaders, and works closely with the Department for International Trade, the British Embassy in Tel Aviv, the Israeli Embassy in London, and the UK-Israel Tech Hub. UK-Israel Business is a bilateral chamber of commerce. It's non-denominational and non-political. It organises a wide variety of events and delegations in the UK and to Israel, including conferences, business breakfasts, roundtable events, and business delegations. Here in the Northeast, it is admittedly more difficult to find direct connections between local and Israeli companies, but we are determined to change that. So, in terms of news, many of you will be aware of the momentous event since our last meeting, namely Israel and the UAE established or are to establish full diplomatic ties. United Arab Emirates and Israel creating these diplomatic ties, and dare I say that it was Donald Trump who is taking the credit for a lot of this. And this is only the third Arab nation to have active diplomatic ties with Israel. For Israel, the announcement comes after years of boasting, really, by Netanyahu, and who said that his government enjoys closer ties to the Arab nations than is publicly acknowledged. It said that delegations would meet in the coming weeks, and we've already seen the plane traveling across Saudi Arabia to get to the UAE with all the diplomats on. And there's going to be direct flights, security and communications, energy, tourism and healthcare will all be issues that are going to be involved in this in these diplomatic ties. The two countries will also partner on fighting the coronavirus pandemic. So the other thing to note in these trying times is the economic resilience that Israel can be proud of. Some of the older members and guests here will remember the legendary diplomat Abba Eban, and in reflecting back on Israel's early post-independence years, he observed that Israel's economic situation in 1950 and 51 was extremely hard-pressed. There were doubts that a tanker would arrive in time to bring oil to Israel. Today, Abraham would be astonished by how far the Jewish state has come. Israel in the 21st century is an energy superpower, an agricultural exporter sharing its expertise with countries in need, and a technological frontrunner continually changing life as we know it. It's also unlikely that Eban foresaw a day when Israel would be a recognized economic powerhouse. Yet Israel steadily strengthened its economy, and the world took notice when it was amongst the first countries to successfully emerge from the global recession in 2009. So, at this point, on behalf of UK Israel Business Northeast, I'm delighted to welcome our main sponsors, Big Change with Martin Port, and Town Centre Securities with Edward Ziff, and we're, as ever, grateful for their continued support. I should like to mention or wish a mazel tov to Martin and Big Change, who last week it was announced they were in the Tech Track 100 fastest growing companies, technology companies, at number 68. And they are only the second company from West Yorkshire to be there. So congratulations to Martin. As well as our main sponsors, our partners are very important to us. And today, although I can't see them, I'm hoping that they're all here. We've got Mitchell Wealth Management with Stephen and Charles Mitchell attending. We've got J-Life with Elliot Landy there. Sky Group, Mark Rothwell. Of course, Chefworks, Paul's here. Fleek Marketing, and Jonny's here. Ideas, Martin Daly. Black Solicitors with Nick Dyson. And Berries with Jeff Walton. And we always get support from the Department of International Trade. So now to our esteemed panelists. I'm delighted to welcome our guest from Israel, Guy Rodovski, who's the executive head chef at Herods Hotel. Now, I think Guy will be there with a hot sunny day in Tel Aviv. It's not too bad here, but he's also spent 10 years working in Eilat, so he should be able to deal with the heat. But he's now the executive head chef at Herods Hotel in Tel Aviv, which specializes in business guests. It is situated on the Tel Aviv Jaffa Promenade, the Tayelet, overlooking the Gordon Beach, overlooking the marina and the Gordon Pool. So it's a beautiful hotel. Guy has built the whole food set for the hotel and constructed a dairy restaurant there. He oversees the conference menu, whether it's for 10 guests or 300 guests, and has to cater for different forms to satisfy some very demanding guests. Now, if I'd have known about Herods Hotel, I'd have booked that instead of the Sheraton. But in any case, the holiday was cancelled. So welcome to Guy. I'm also pleased to welcome Paul Gross, who's Managing Director of Chefworks. Paul's no stranger to many of you attending today, and I'm very proud to say he's a good friend. Chefworks is a world leader in culinary and hospitality apparel and uniforms. It can currently be found in over 65 countries. Also, as the only global culinary apparel brand, it has been successful in sourcing and distributing high-quality products for over 5 decades. During this time, the company has remained resolute in its quest to provide the best quality products at the most competitive prices. The company focuses all its efforts to assure complete satisfaction and meet expectations for high-quality, stylish, comfortable uniforms and customer service. Paul is a qualified lawyer and an astute and knowledgeable businessman. He's very articulate, which is why we've got him on the panel. He does fantastic work in the community, and in his 3rd term as president of the Eitz Chaim, which I can tell you is a demanding job and requires all his skills. As a South African emigre, he still loves his rugby, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to find him on the Lions tour, watching, not playing, next year if it still goes ahead. Welcome to Paul. Last but certainly not least, Celia Clyne, Managing Director of Celia Clyne Banqueting. Most of you will have heard of Celia. She's a legend in the kosher catering and hospitality events industry, and her reputation goes before her. Her famous company, Celia Clyne Banqueting, is driven to create outstanding food and memory a lifetime. I can vouch for that personally. She catered my son's bar mitzvah, my daughter's wedding impeccably, and her patience is amazing. For over 25 years, Celia and her company have helped their clients celebrate the happiest days of their lives, from birthdays to bar mitzvahs, corporate events, engagements to weddings. And as she puts it, it's sometimes for no other reason than just because. The firm operates from a state-of-the-art 15,000 square foot headquarters with 50 plus full-time employees, enabling it to offer a premium experience. Last but by not least, Jonny Ross. If any of you know Jonny, and most of you do, and you'll have heard him in his role of facilitator in panel discussions before. He is always cheerful and lively. I've said that before. Jonny is the founder and of digital marketing specialist at Fleek Marketing, an award-winning company. Fleek works with a wide range of B2B and B2C businesses, and in the both public and with both public and third sector businesses. He's over 20 years experience in digital online technologies, specializing in SEO data, user experience in digital marketing. We're grateful to Jonny not only for agreeing to facilitate the panel discussion, but together with my fantastic director, Jane, organizing this Zoom presentation. So over to you, Jonny.
Great, thanks, Colin. Welcome everyone. Just a quick bit of housekeeping. So feel free to use the chat and network, make best use of this. Just a tiny little thing. There's a drop down at the bottom. If you click that and change it to all panelists and attendees, it means that everyone will see what you're saying, because I can see that some of your comments are only being shown to panelists at the moment. So if you might want to change that. There's a Q&A box, so feel free to use that as well to ask questions. Have you got questions? What would you like to ask Paul? What would you like to ask Celia? What would you like to ask Guy? Now's the time. Put some questions in the Q&A box and I'll get round to them. Please do. It makes it more interactive, and you'll get what you want out of this. But yeah, in the meantime, use the chat as well. And lastly, there's networking at 10 o'clock. I've already shared the link in the chat. I'll share it again. And that is all you need to do is close this down, click the link. So you need to copy and paste the link first, and you'll come into a new version of Zoom, which will be a bit of networking at 10 o'clock. So without further ado, let's get started. I'm going to start with Paul, if that's okay. I'm loving your Chefworks background there as well. Paul, what I wanted to ask you was just, how you and your family and your business are navigating COVID, and, have you been able to go back to Johannesburg? What's life like for you right now, and how have you navigated all of this?
Good morning, Jonny, and good morning to everybody. No, we haven't been back to South Africa in quite a while. We normally try once a year because my parents still live there, my sister and her family. Vicky and I were going to go at the beginning of this year, but unfortunately the situation changed, so we haven't. It'll be a while before we can travel there. As far as adapting, I think really you've got to worry about the things that you can control, and the things that you can't, well, there's not much sitting and worrying about it. So, we adapt from a business point of view, from a family point of view. Our eldest son Daniel's in London. We've been down to see him. He lives there. He's been to see us. Our youngest son Jonathan, who finished his army service in Israel at the end of December, came and visited us in January. He was supposed to stay until March. He had a few flights back cancelled. He eventually managed to get back there in May. Normally we go every few months to visit. We haven't been able to. Hopefully that will soon change, and we really just get on with things. Vicky's worked Vicky's worked throughout. I've carried on working. We reopened the office, the office in the UK at the beginning of June. So really just carry on with things.
It's, and one of the things that you say is let's focus on the positives, and it is difficult because today we're talking about the hospitality industry, which is not easy. Celia, I'm sure you can tell us a bit more about that. How has it been for you? I can only assume that it's fallen through the bottom, and you're having to wait till we can all start partying again. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, it's certainly been a difficult time for us, a very worrying time. Beginning of March, we furloughed all the team, and we've been on furlough till last week when we started bringing people in gradually back into work. We actually had our first wedding for 30 people, which was in Leeds last week, but that isn't good for our business. I mean, it's good to do it, but we're geared up for large numbers. And obviously to open our premises to do small numbers is not really what we're set out to do. So it's a worrying time, that's for sure. The bookings are there, we just can't do them.
How many staff do you have, Celia?
We have 20 full-time, and everybody's been on furlough. And so when we have small events, we bring a couple in to do them. We have another wedding this weekend as well.
And I assume you also hire a number of, I'm not sure what you call them, contractors, or, it must have, they can't even go on furlough, can they? It must have hugely affected.
Absolutely. We have hundreds of regular, what are called part-time workers as well. No, nobody's been able to work. In fact, from March till last week, we didn't have 1 penny of income coming into the company. And so we've not been, to start off at the beginning of lockdown, I got ill, I got the virus. Glad to say not too badly, but for 5 weeks I was fit to do nothing. So I consider myself one of the lucky ones, really. And that was because we had huge events just before lockdown. And you know me, I'm always in the midst of it all. And so I caught it. But
well, I'm glad to see.
Yeah.
I think we're all very glad to see you're okay now then.
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Guy, Celia talked about smaller events there, and it's fabulous to have you here from Israel, by the way, right now. Thank you for joining us. But I think, am I right that you're focusing on small banquets right now because that's sort of the limitation that you've got over there as well?
Yeah, good morning. No, in Israel we can do only small banquet until 20 people in a closed area and 30 people in the open area. So not a lot of banquets, wedding, it's not allowed. In the hotel, we make only meeting rooms or stuff like that. Small dining, not too much. We have a huge problem with the hospitality now, with the banquets, and that's what we can do now. This is the only what the government approved to do now.
As a head chef, you must be frustrated that you're not getting to create some of the amazing dishes that you would normally create. How's that impacting you?
We changed how we do it, how we work. We make everything in a small portion. We serve to the table everything. Or if we make it in a buffet, we serve it in all the big dishes and the small dishes, and we bring all the guests gloves that they can take and not touch all the plates, and that's how we do it right now. Everything we try to make very high culinary food, but it's not easy, you know. Also, you know, we don't have too much work in the middle of the week, only in the weekend. It's a little bit a problem, but it's okay.
What's the hotel like? I mean, are there any guests? Is it busy at all? Is the hotel able to work? Mark Coleman's asked a question actually. So he's asked, is the hotel able to work over the festivals? And what about the potential lockdown that's been talked about in Israel? Correct me if I'm wrong, the number of cases is rising, but also the number of deaths is dramatically rising in Israel. Is that right?
Yes, yes. Today, the government, next week we have the holidays, we have the New Year and Rosh Hashanah next week. And the government need to tell us what she decide after for next week. If we can open, if there's lockdown, if we can open the hotel. We don't know nothing yet. And we will see what's later today, how we're going to do it, if we do it.
It's tough times. Paul, the positives. What's Chefworks working on? What are the industries? Because correct me if I'm wrong. You cater. Let's go for the word cater for many different industries. Where are the positives right now? And you're also a global operation as well. Where are the positives? Where are the opportunities?
Jonny, back in 2008, when there was the financial meltdown, Chefworks actually changed a lot in those years. I work with my cousins, most of them within the States, and America's our biggest market. And they very successfully moved the business into other sectors. So we weren't reliant just on traditional hospitality industry. So we sell a lot into assisted living, the healthcare sector, the education sector, etc. Food service, which has continued. So fortunately, we're not, solely reliant on hotels and restaurants. Otherwise, that would be pretty problematic. Added to that, at the beginning of the year, we finalized an acquisition. Chefworks, as Colin explained in the introduction, we distribute in many, many countries around the world. There was always a particular brand which was seen as the Rolls Royce of the industry by the name of Bragard, a French brand. So earlier in the year, at the beginning of the year, we purchased that. So we own that. It's the lockdowns made things a bit challenging from an integration point of view, and to work with our new colleagues in France and elsewhere. But we found ways with all the regular calls of putting new processes in place. What's interesting for us to see is how the COVID has impacted different countries in different ways. Some of our distributors in some countries, their sales are virtually back to normal. Others, it depends where they are in the cycle. And South America got the COVID later than elsewhere, so they were about 3 months behind us. So when you see people's revenue numbers being sort of 5% of where they would be, it's pretty frightening. So it's just being there to work with all our colleagues and support everybody, and not dwell too much on all the doom and gloom, because as I said, you can't really do anything about that. So we've reorganized things. Unfortunately, in America, it's come at a huge casualty from a staff point of view. We unfortunately made 85 people redundant there. It's pretty harsh in the States. But that's what we've got to do, and it's about just navigating through it. And the industry will come back. People are not going to stop eating. People don't want to start traveling. I think if you saw what Rishi Sunak did with that Eat Out to Help Out, how successful that was in the UK, and how people embraced it and went back to restaurants. The appetite's there, and people will go back. It's just when all the politicians stop changing the laws by the day and making people confused, it will also help.
Well, it's given you an opportunity. Correct? Am I right that it's given you an opportunity to spend a bit more time in the garden pumping some iron? Is that right, Paul?
Well, one of the upsides with our younger son staying with us is a qualified fitness instructor. qualified at Wingate. And so he stayed with us. So every evening we trained in the garden. But you know, back at the office now, and there's a gym in the mill where the office is. So you know, train every day in the weekdays. So yeah, things continue. I think you've just got to make the best of it, really.
Absolutely. Celia, Paul talked about changes in law and U-turns and the government, you know, is with their latest announcement, the big number 6, is it confusing? Is it clear? Does that make things worse for you? You know, one of the things I'm wondering about is face-to-face networking. Where does that sit? And I guess you might do some catering for things like that. What are the rules really confusing?
They are confusing, and they make it even more difficult for us, because obviously we couldn't sit back now and wait for large numbers to come back. So we've been planning another side to our business, and we've started doing expanding our delivery of food to homes, particularly pushing for Rosh Hashanah orders this time of year. And we have some large numbers of bookings, but people are planning on entertaining. So, you know, round the table might be 20 people, and suddenly they're told they can only have 6. So that will definitely have an impact on our business. So I just feel whichever way we turn, we sort of struggle.
Celia, is it too late for us to order if we wanted to order for Rosh Hashanah?
We can definitely take your order. We are delivering to Leeds. So there you
Oh,
are.
right. Brilliant. Good to know. Guy, you're not delivering to Leeds, are you?
Again?
You're not delivering to Leeds, are you? No.
No.
Celia, I just wanted to ask, during lockdown, I mean, you know, you're a very busy person, especially when work is in normal circumstances. This must have given you a bit of time. You managed to get away and you've got back to your passion of cooking, as you were telling me earlier. Is that right?
Yes, because I got into the business originally because I love to cook. I used to teach. I was a home economist, and so I used to do lots of recipe development and was always cooking. And then, of course, over the years, I have a whole team of the most fantastic chefs, so they all spoil me. Anyway, I've gone back to doing a lot myself, lots of recipe development at home, and really enjoyed that part of it. But I must say, I'm itching to be back at work. I'm used to being with people, you know, busy all day. So I am missing it.
Yeah.
I've also got the cleanest house in town. I've never cleaned so much in my life.
Guy, Steve Bootles asked a question. He's interested in what your favourite dish to cook is.
My favorite dish? A lot, you know. My kids like to know that, you know, where there's a lockdown in Israel, the kids, every day we open a barbecue in the house. This is what we like, what the kids like to eat. This is what I'm cooking. Meat, fish, pasta, whatever they like. Now they're very spoilage because, you know, I'm a lot of at home.
You worked in Eilat for 10 years. What were you from Tel Aviv originally?
Yes. 10 years ago, I was moving to Eilat, working in one of the biggest hotel in Israel, one of the biggest complex in Israel.
And are you glad you've moved back to Tel Aviv, or you know where's your heart? Is your heart in Tel Aviv?
You know, it's different. You know, Eilat is a resort area. Tel Aviv is more business. It's different. We will see. Only 1 year as I'm here. We will see.
You might be going back to Eilat, I'm hearing, at some point.
My kids want to go back to Eilat.
Steve saying barbecue sound awesome in Israel. Stephen Mitchell's saying he agrees with Paul about the industries coming back. How do businesses survive, you know, like Celia, until things come back?
Well, I wouldn't want to answer on behalf of Celia, But I think, you know, every business, you've just got to look critically at your business model and see what you can do to cut back. You know, that's the only thing. I mean, I think everybody's realized that they just, you know, over the lockdown period and until the economy recovers, you can't just carry on as before. You know, it's just working in a different way. I mean, last year when it got to the end of 2019, I looked at my calendar and it worked out I'd been out of the country for almost 4 months, a mixture of business travel and holiday and everything. This year, you know, since lockdown, I've been on, you know, apart from within the UK, been on one trip to Paris, you know, stayed overnight at the airport, had meetings at the airport hotel the next day and flew back. You know, that's it. So it's just a very different way of working. As I said, you know, we cut back on overheads, on staff count. Everybody has taken salary cuts, which still continue for the most part, and it's just adapting. One thing that we didn't stop investing in the business. We were busy with a lot of IT projects, which we've continued. Other projects, we were in the midst of changing our UK business model. We'd always worked traditionally with just one distributor in the UK. We're working with multiple distributors now. We're also selling direct to particular customers. We've carried on with our negotiations with major customers. We've signed a preferred supplier agreement with a core hotel group in the EMEA region, that's Europe and the Middle East, for example. So, you know, you just find ways and you adapt and you just get on with things.
Yeah, I mean, Celia, you can resonate with that. I mean, you've already talked about you trying to adapt the business, but then at the same time, I can hear that you sort of, you know, at a bit of a loss. You've changed this, but then all of a sudden, new rules come in, and you're unable to do that. Well, I mean, where is this going for the industry? And are you? I mean, I'm not trying to be personal here at all, but you know, are you as a business going to be able to ride this storm?
Okay, we're certainly going to do our very best to, because luckily for us, I'd say 90% of my bookings haven't cancelled. They've transferred the date into next year. So I'm very hopeful that by next year, things will be getting back to normal. And with the ideas that we're developing at the moment, we're going to have a sideline to the business, which I'm also very optimistic about. I have my son in the business as well, and he's the younger element and lots of ideas. So watch this space.
I mean, when things, you know, are allowed again, I can only assume that you're going to be, you know, and I hope for you, fully booked, because there'll be such a backlog of events.
Yeah, there are dates already next year fully booked, which seems crazy when you can't do anything at this moment. But
yeah, no, I'm
yeah,
absolutely.
I'm determined that.
What you must have close contact with people that, you know, these bookings, whether it be bar mitzvahs, whether it be weddings, corporate events, I'm not sure. But with regard, I'm wondering about, for example, the weddings. You know, what are the feelings and how are real people coping with this? Because you must have some quite close interaction and get to know some of that.
Yeah, I mean, those that know me know that I'm totally involved with my clients. You know, they become your best friends by the time you're doing your daughter's wedding or your son's bar mitzvah. And you can imagine the upset in families when the bride has had to change the date, some of them 3 times. You know, they've got the dress hanging there and can't get married. I mean, really difficult.
Yeah.
Really.
Pippa Moore has asked a question to Celia and Guy. So who would you most like to cook for, and who would you least like to cook for? And I'm curious, have either of you cooked for any well-known celebrities or very important VIPs? I'll start. Should I start with Guy?
Yeah, I would. A few years ago, I cooked when I was working in Eilat. I cooked for the Prime Minister that he was visiting in Eilat. Most of the Israeli celebs, not international, you know, because when I was in Eilat, nobody will come there. But a lot of government Prime Minister, most of them. A few years ago, before I moved to Eilat, I was working in one of the catering that making the official dinners in the Prime Minister house in Jerusalem. So I make the food for Arik Sharon, Ehud Barak, Ehud Olmert.
Wow,
This is the, yes.
that's pretty cool. What
Yes.
and Celia, I'm going to come to you in a second, but just further, what a guy, Alex Ullman's asking, really interesting. How's COVID regulations affected the way you operate in the kitchen? I'm guessing it's taken some of the fun out of food creation. How do you follow the guidelines for social distancing when you're working in a busy kitchen? It must be very difficult to keep your own space and station. Alex is asking, is that?
Yeah, we work 24 hours a day. Before we don't work in the night. Now we work in the night. We make the mise en place and a lot of things in the night. That the morning shift that come at 5 o'clock in the morning to make breakfast, take it to the buffet or take it to the restaurant, and only make the service and not make preparation with the service. And the people know, the cooks know how to, and they want to not become sick. So they keep on them. Everybody in the side. Everybody know the rules in Israel. Everybody know the rules. Everybody work with mask, with gloves. Everybody know it.
Celia, how's the regulations affected you, and has it taken the fun out of this?
Has it taken the fun? I think I could never lose the passion and fun for my work. I love my work. Our kitchens are large, so we have no problem making them COVID friendly. I mean, they're really large kitchens, so my staff are well spaced and we're following all the guidelines. We're also doing a production of food that we will launch soon with various sauces and soups that we're hoping to supply to delis. So again, this is another line.
Watch this space.
Watch this space.
Who would you most like to cook for and least like to cook for, and who are some of the famous VIPs that you might have cooked for?
I think I'd be a bit nervous to cook for Gordon Ramsay. He shouts too much, and I'm not a shouter, so I wouldn't like to cook for him. But I've been very lucky. I've been in the business 37 years, which is quite a record, I think. And we've catered for many celebrities, many prime ministers, Netanyahu, Abba Eban, President Clinton, George Bush, both George Bushes, so many, Princess Anne, lots of royalty, lots of celebrities.
Princess Diana. Is that right?
We did a dessert for Princess Diana when she was in Manchester. She was at the Midland Hotel, but she didn't stay very long.
Right.
So, whereas someone like Princess Anne stayed the whole way through the meal, catered for the Duke of Edinburgh, Duke of Westminster.
Gosh, it's endless.
Yeah, it is.
Paul, I'm guessing that you've just sat and eaten with all of these people. Is that right?
I'm not so sure about that. Been to the usual charity dinners, but it's nice when traveling around the world. And as the topic of today, I've enjoyed some very nice meals in Israel together with our distributor there, Itzik Rav, who's sitting in the same room as Guy for the call. And we've been around to various hotels and restaurants and everything, and it's always great eating there.
Thank you for asking questions. Please keep asking questions. I am going to come to all of them, but it's really helpful and it makes it more interactive for you as well. So please keep that coming. And I'm going to go to Martin Port's question. He's saying, congratulations to all the panelists for being positive and entrepreneurial. I mean, it is really difficult. We're talking the hospitality sector today, and all three of you will no doubt be hugely affected. What he's interested though in is, I guess, to Celia and Paul, will you create consumer websites for home delivery of your services and products? Is that another avenue, and will you take it as far as creating a consumer website? Should I start with Celia? Is that something that you're thinking about? How do people currently order? If I wanted to order at home, or would you go down a new website route for consumers?
Yes, I think so. I think we probably will do. And we have just launched a name, and again, watch this space. It's going to be called Celia's Kitchen.
Nice.
And we plan to do deliveries to homes, and also the products that we're going to make and supply to other outlets.
I mean, as Paul said, it's important to invest at times like this as well. You know, there's the example of Kellogg's in the Great Depression. They invested a huge amount in marketing, and they came out as the market leader. Paul, would you go down the consumer route? I mean, it's difficult to invest when there's no business coming in, but at the same time, to pivot and to ensure recovery, it's important.
Well, Chefworks has traditionally been focused on business to business. A lot of our goods do sell in the consumer space. You know, if we analyze the figures from our USA website, where we've been selling online for many years, and selling there through Amazon, quite a lot of our goods, you know, people will buy our aprons for home use, for example. But you know, our goods are very, very different to goods manufactured by the fashion industry. Ours are built to be durable, to sustain, you know, to sustain the wash cycle, last through the wash cycles in the industrial laundries, etc. So they're built to a completely different standard, and you know that goes all the way through our supply chain. So yeah, some of the things will translate well into retail. We've done. You know, we've experimented in the States with a number of chains. For example, you know, we've had apron displays in Bed Bath and Beyond, retailers like that. We've done Costco and some others. But you know, the bulk of the business is on the business to business side.
Yeah. Okay. A question from Jason. I was going to start with Guy, if that's all right. Jason's asking, what permanent changes do you anticipate in the hospitality sector going forward? Do you anticipate this will have a lasting effect on your business models? I mean, I'm interested in even just hotels full stop. You know, is this going to have a permanent? How are they going to permanently adapt to this new landscape? Start with Guy.
We're doing a few changes in our business, in our hotel. We served different, you know, we work in capsule, and we change, and we do what we need to do to keep working, and that we can still bring new guests to the hotel, and they can be safe. And they will know that when they come to our hotels, not only in my hotel, in all of the hotels in Israel, nobody wants that somebody will come sick in the hotel or stuff like that. And we do it what we need. We open the space. We have less banquet and less tables in the dining room or the restaurant, and that's what we're doing.
What we've found in the UK in the hotel industry is that bookings for hotels in the suburbs, or certainly the countryside, are actually reasonably okay. But in the cities, it's, you know, there's lots of empty rooms. Is it anything like that in Israel at all, or is it very different?
No, it's in the middle of the week. No, in the Tel Aviv area, you know, it's in the middle of the week. Usually there's business people that stay now, supposed to stay now. And so we're empty. We are around 20% occupancy. In the weekend, where the family go out for vacation, so we are full. So almost full from Thursday until Saturday, we are full. We're full.
Wow.
We have, you know, we open the breakfast from 6:30 in the morning until 12:30. That everybody can eat. You know, we can bring also only one of the people inside together inside the dining room. So 500, 600 people that come. We talk with the guests. They know exactly when they come. Also, people that, you know, come to holiday don't want to wake up 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock to eat the breakfast. So we don't have no other choice, and the people know it.
Celia, do you think there'll be a lasting effect on the business model? Do you think it's a permanent change?
I think there will be permanent change. I think it's inevitable after such a long time not running as normal. I think it also, as an owner of a company, I think it makes you very aware of your costings, and it's quite amazing what you can, when you look at things in detail, what you can actually save, and we've had the time to do that. So yeah.
How have you managed to engage your staff during this period? You know, they won't be working as much. Some of them have been furloughed. Have you managed to keep them engaged though?
Yeah, we have a WhatsApp.
Okay.
We have a WhatsApp group, and you know, because some of them have been very low during this time. People have got their own personal problems. And we're a bit of a family type business, and you know, everybody cares about each other, so we have tried to keep in touch the whole way through. For those that
Martin said that he can't wait for Celia Kitchen, and Edward Ziff, he's a message to Celia. He's put, lovely seeing you all, particularly Celia. Dee and I wish you and Barry, all the family, a happy, peaceful, and above all, healthy new year. We've worked with you and all of your simchas over the years. Just one question though. Please, will you get Jane to give you George's recipe for the creme brulee? That's from Edward Ziff.
Absolutely. My pleasure. We still use it.
Thanks, Edward. So Colin mentioned the new agreement between the UAE and Israel. Graham's asked a question. I think it's directed at Guy. Do you think you will have new visitors from the UAE following the historic new agreement between Israel and the UAE?
We hope so. You know, everybody hopes so, that a new tourist will come, you know, new culture. The food we make, you know, in Israel, the Mediterranean food, the Arab food, the food is here. Only we need the tourist. That's it.
Why do you think they've signed this agreement right now?
Again, sorry.
Why do you think, with regard to timing, why do you think they've signed this agreement now?
I really don't know, but you know, in Israel, like everything's happened. We know that the government work all the time about a lot of things. This is one of them. The citizens believe that it's going to be in a few months more agreement with the other countries. But you know, I'm not a politics. I'm only a chef in a hotel. We're doing what we're doing.
Just to push you a bit further, do you think there'll be any effect on the relationships between Israel and Palestinians?
Nobody know. Believe me, nobody know. I'm living here. Nobody know what's going to happen tomorrow, or next month, or next year. Nobody know.
Fair enough. So yeah, just to remind you, if you do have questions, please do ask. Just seeing if that was a question. No, I'm not sure it is. So Paul, what's the history? How did you get into Chefworks? Where did it all begin? And what was the move? What made you move from South Africa to the UK?
Okay, let me try and remember all your questions. My uncle started as a clothing manufacturer in South Africa, manufacturing industrial workwear in the early 1960s. Then in the mid-1990s, the eldest of my first cousins, Alan, came up with this concept that we were going to go into designer culinary apparel and build a global brand. So I, of course, naively thought that he was deranged, but there you go. But so we got on with that. As I said, I work with my first cousins, and we've set up just a business between own family companies and exclusive distributors, partners around the world, distributing into all the different countries. It's an industry we enjoy. You know, we always focus on trying to do the right things, whether that's working with the right people, the long-term relationships, treating factories in the right way. For example, we weren't like the fashion retailers who went to the factories and cancelled all their orders and didn't pay, etc. You know, we've kept our factories going to look after all the employees, etc. So we've carried on. So that's how I got into the industry, really, from a family point of view, and it's become an extended family. Working with a lot of very, very good friends all around the world. So that's great. Why did we move from South Africa? Well, we originally moved in 1994. It was a business opportunity in the UK. I was involved in something else before Chefworks, and we thought we'd stay for a while, and time's just passed, and
Stay for a while and time's just passed. It's been a little while, yeah. Talking of Israel, Paul, what do you do much business with Israel at all? I know you're global, but is Israel in the mix?
Yes, very much so. I mentioned earlier in the call, we've got a distributor there. It's a very good friend. Itzik lives down on Kibbutz Kalia. For those who like to go and visit the Dead Sea, you can go and visit Itzik's kibbutz. It's got a hotel at the kibbutz. It's very nice. I've certainly been there to stay, and they've got their own jetty onto the Dead Sea. So it's a nice area. Itzik Supply's got a number of the major hotel groups in Israel. The Fatel Group, Dan Hotel, Israel, etc. But we supply throughout the region. You mentioned the peace deal earlier with the UAE. We've got very good partners. Based in Dubai. Now our business Brigade have got its subsidiary in Dubai, so we sell throughout the region there. Into Saudi, you'll find our products being worn in the Saudi palaces and in the other Emirate countries. So we've always done a lot in the Middle East region.
Have you? You brought up UAE again there. Do you have an opinion at all on how it might affect the Israeli-Palestinian relations?
Well, I don't really want to stray into the political realm, but I think that there needs to be a reality check, and I think the fact that countries are openly acknowledging that they're trading with Israel and that there is all this cooperation, and they're prepared to publicly acknowledge it. I think that perhaps that will lead to a reality check, and then people can make smart decisions instead of continuing with all the negativity. I think that from what I read, there was disappointment from some sectors that the UAE had gone and done this, but countries need to do that because countries need to do what's best for them and what's best for the region and what's in their economic and security interests, and put political matters to the side.
Yeah, totally. There was a couple of comments that I was just going to mention. So please do use the chat to network. I know Alexa has, Elliot has. Elliot's offering Celia. He wants to pitch for the new website, which I think Celia's already said she's happy to chat to him. So great to see that business is going on right now. Ivan makes a really good point. Ivan Green. He's saying that listening to the conversation, it would seem that you're taking the slowdown to create new ideas and rethinking your strategy. He said, do you feel that having thinking time is going to benefit in the long term? I mean, my question, I guess, is forgetting COVID and forgetting this current slowdown, how important is reflection time? How important is ensuring that you have time to reflect, have time to think, and when do you get that ever, and how do you make sure you get that time? Let's start with Celia, because you're a busy person, and I wonder if you do ever have a routine to make sure you step back and think.
I probably didn't, and I probably should have done. That is the answer to that, really. Had plenty of time to think during this lockdown, and I've had enough of it now. I'm ready to go back. But it doesn't suit me being at home, that's for sure.
But it does sound, from what you've just said, that it's worth making sure that when you get busy again, to make sure that you put something in your routine to have that reflection, and because we're always evolving our business, etc., etc. So do you think you'll end up learning from that and putting something in to make sure you do have?
I think it would be a mistake not to learn from it. And I think we've had valuable time, and I hope I've used it wisely. But yes, I think I will definitely take time, and I think I will also take a bit more time for myself,
which I think is also really important, and I think that helps us be more creative and outside activities. Guy, what's your way of reflecting? I know you're into your sports in Israel. You like eating out, etc. When do you get some reflection time? And when you were a busy chef, did you put any time in for that?
We have too much relaxing time in the lockdown, like Celia said. We only want to walk. There's maybe a lockdown maybe next week. Only hope that it's not going to happen, and we can walk, and we can serve a lot of people like it was before. This is what we want. There's time to relaxing and time to walk. Now it's time to walk.
But in the bigger picture, when you're a really busy chef in a really busy hotel, how do you make sure that you've got time to come up with the next amazing meal?
I like to travel around the world. To tell you the truth, in February, a few days before lockdown, I was in London, visiting in London, was eating in a few restaurants over there with my wife. I thought that I'd have a new idea to bring to the hotel, but we do it now. We hope we will do it in this. We hope that we can do it in Rosh Hashanah. But I'm traveling a lot, 3-4 times a year in the United States, in Europe. We bring a lot of new idea. In Israel, there's a lot of people that also go out and see new things. You have Instagram, you have the website. We have a lot of things that we can bring new idea and maybe take some of them, and we make it our own way and our own style, and we make it different, and the guests all the time come and see something else.
So it's done through lots of traveling, which sounds fabulous. Paul, is taking time out of the business to reflect important?
Well, I never really take time out of the business, so nothing's changed as far as that's concerned. It's always pretty intense. I think the thing is to always be open-minded and just be prepared to learn from people. Everybody's got something that they can teach you. A long time ago when I was in South Africa, I remember sitting in a barrister's chambers and with a client, and the client was a bit big-headed and thought he knew everything. And so this Italian barrister or advocate, as we turned it there, turned around to him and said, he's monkey together and the professor by himself. So the client thought about this and said, okay, I'm prepared to learn. And, if you're open-minded and you learn from other people and you read a lot and you consult and you ask people for advice, I think that's what it's about. you know, you can never stay static in an industry. You've got to keep looking for opportunities and you know, keep developing.
Jane's asking the panel a question, Jane Clyne's. How much does social media play a part in your businesses? And as lockdown made it increase the focus on that? Paul, you're very much business to business. Does social media play a part?
Yes, it does hugely. You know, we've got an amazing network of very loyal customers all around the world. So if you look at any of the numerous Chefworks websites, you have Chef of the Month or Barista of the Month, etc. You know, we've got executive chefs and others, you know, very good friends in all our catalogs. You can look on Facebook on the numerous sites in multiple languages across the world. You can look at all the Instagram. You know, there's a massive amount of good material out there on Chefworks. So yeah, social media is very, very important.
Yeah, I noticed the Barista of the Month. So I guess you've has that had to be paused slightly with COVID, and do you have any new plans for when?
Jonny, we haven't paused anything. You know, we continue. You know, we continue as is. I mean, obviously some things have changed. You know, normally at the during May every year, there's one of the largest hospitality shows in the world. It's the National Restaurant Association show at McCormick Place in Chicago. So for the first year this time, that show didn't take place. So because normally we would have, you know, we would have a very big booth there. You know, on Sunday night, we have in a sports bar area, we normally have a big industry function. I think last year at our function, we had something, you know, 450 people, you know, invited. So it's, you know, very different. So all those type of things haven't taken place. But on the social media side, you know, that absolutely continues. But I think you've just got to do things in a sensitive way. You know, we know that a lot of customers are out there struggling. We gave away a lot of masks and other equipment, you know, predominantly in the States. So we did the right thing from a social responsibility point of view. You know, we weren't in anything to, you know, profiteer, you know, as a result of any spikes in demand of anything. So it's just going about things in a decent way.
Celia, how important social media for your business?
Very. I think it's important to every business these days. We get a lot of inquiries through our Facebook page and Instagram. I wish I was better at doing it myself, but it's amazing what you can learn. And I certainly am very involved in it. But yes, very much so.
I mean, you're in a great sector with regard to using Instagram because it's great images, great pictures. Guy, social media for the hotel industry in Israel?
Yeah, sure. Well, social media for every cooks in Israel. Have somebody that make a new portion, put it online. But we have almost like we said before, social media. Without social media, for every business now, it's must have. You cannot work without it. All over the restaurant, the hotels, what we're doing, you make a new portion. You want somebody to know that you're making a new portion, some banquet, something. This is it's the most easier way to tell everybody that we do it.
It's certainly music to myself and probably Elliot's ears in marketing. So yeah, we would definitely agree with you all. Alex Ullman's asked a question. We're certainly on food today. He'd love to know where you eat and outside of your own homes and kitchens, where do you recommend? Where have you been? Where are some of the best restaurants you've been to? Do you have any good recommendations for us? I'll start with, who should I start with? I'll start with Guy. You sound very world traveled.
I tell you the truth, in February I was eating in the Gordon Ramsay restaurant in in London. I like his restaurant. I was eating in Vegas, and the last time I was there, and the burgers. You have, in the Planet Hollywood Hotel, there's a nice burger restaurant of Gordon Ramsay. In New York, they have the Novo, a nice restaurant. We're all around the world. There's a good food. Only to go online and we'll see it. In Tel Aviv, there's one of the finest restaurants in the world. Burgers, fish, meat, fine dining. You can find Mediterranean. You can find everything in Tel Aviv.
Just, what were you going to say? A name of of one in Tel Aviv?
Popina is one of the best. In Neve Tzedek is one of the best restaurants. Now they have a sister that is a kosher restaurant in one of the hotels in Tel Aviv. It's one of the best restaurants in Tel Aviv now.
And in Eilat?
In Eilat, they have the Leviathan. That's also before it's one of the best restaurant in Eilat, but now because of the COVID, it changed because it was very. It's cost a lot, so need to make a change that people can come there. And we have the seafood restaurant in Eilat. You have Italian. There's a Pastor is a very good Italian restaurant. There's a few good restaurants.
Paul, where can you recommend?
I've got the perfect place for Alex because I happen to know Alex likes the whiskey. So when we were in London for the bank holiday weekend, our son Daniel booked, we went to a pop-up restaurant in Hampstead Garden suburb. And it's quite unusual. I'm not actually sure what it's called because I don't think they gave it a name. It showed up on my Amex card as the Whiskey Palette. But basically, it's this kosher pop-up restaurant. You sit around in these lounge chairs, and it's a collaboration between a biltong wholesaler. For those who don't know what biltong is, it's a name. It's a South African name. It's for dried meat. So you have that chopped up in cups to start on the table with some nice vegetable crisps. So it's a collaboration between the biltong supplier and a whiskey wholesaler. So they've got a massive range of whiskies there, and they're very reasonably priced. They're not extortionate. And so I had a nice plate of ribs there, and we enjoyed a great meal.
Fabulous. It sounds really good. It sounds really, really good. Celia, where would you recommend?
Well, I'm kosher, so we crave going to Israel, obviously, and some of the restaurants that guys mentioned, fabulous. We've enjoyed, and yeah, can't wait to get back there. That's for sure. And at the moment, best restaurants probably here in my house. The cooking, we can't go out anywhere. It's terrible.
No, of course. Alex Ullman says, thanks, Paul. I accept your generous invitation, L'chaim. Colin Glass was asking a question, Celia. He was asking, have you had any government help, for example, the Sybil's loan? I mean, you'll have had government help with furlough, I assume.
The furlough's been a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah. Only a small amount from the government. Really, I'm hoping that the next announcement, they'll do something more for the industry. I'm hoping that they'll extend the furlough for anybody in the hospitality industry, because I feel we've been left behind. And not only the caterers, there's all the musicians that play at all these large events, the videographers, the photographers, they've all got absolutely no income.
Well, I mean,
they need help, and we all need help.
Yeah.
So,
no, I agree. And when you relate it to, they've said professional sports can carry on. Why can't, for example, professional theatre or other things of that nature? And it is a sector that's really being missed. We're
being completely missed out. And the government loan that you get, it's only a loan. You have to give it back, and it has to be from a year where you've had no income. So if you ask me if we had help, only really the furlough. And now we're starting back to work. Of course, we have to take staff out of furlough and pay them. So it's difficult. It's difficult times.
Stephen Mitchell's asking when he can come for dinner, Celia. So we are coming to the end. This has been really, really interesting, and I've really got to know you all so much better. I'm going to bring Colin back in, so he is going to give an ending to this. And also, what I've done is I'm going to just put the link to the networking. So if you want to grab that link now, because what will happen is you'll have to close Zoom down, which means you'll lose the link, but then you need to click it after you've closed it down. So there's also the meeting ID and the passcode there. So you might want to just grab that stuff now, so that if you want to join us in networking, hoping most of the panelists will be there as well. And it'll be great to just have a nice free flow conversation, bit of networking afterwards. But for now, we will listen. I'll hand it over to Colin. And Colin just needs to turn his microphone on.
Sorry about that. Thanks very much, Jonny. Look, whilst everyone's been affected by COVID-19, some industries and businesses have been hit much harder than others, and obviously hospitality is definitely one of them. I think you'll all agree that our panelists have frankly explained the problems and how they are addressing them. It's very difficult, but it's good to see how positive they are, and we wish their businesses a speedy recovery. To all of you, we're moving towards Rosh Hashanah. I wish you all, on behalf of the UK Israel Business and my colleagues, Shana Tova, a sweet and happy and healthy new year. And I think we will all hope and pray for a swift end to this COVID-19 crisis. So thanks again, and I hope you'll all join us for the networking. And of course, thanks to the panelists, Paul, Guy, and Celia, they were great. And of course, Jonny, who's kept the whole thing rolling along. We look forward to seeing you at the next one, which will be, we hope, on October the 7th, when we will be talking about business and supporting healthcare and beyond. We've got Stephen Mitchell, we've got Esther Wakeman, who's the CEO of Leeds Cares, and Jack Codd, who's Senior Manager of Corporate Affairs at Teva UK Limited. And Teva is one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in Israel, with a presence locally in Castleford. So we look forward to seeing you then, and we'll be in the marketing.
Great. And thank you again to all the panelists. You've been absolutely amazing. It's been really lovely to chat to you all. I'm going to end this now. We will see you all soon. Please join us for the networking. Grab that link and then click it as soon as you close this down, and we'll be there waiting for you. We'll see you all soon. Take care.
Bye now.